coach, I spend the first 5-10 minutes of like a just generalized warm up. So we'll go, I'll hop on the bike, we'll hop on the treadmill, whatever, we'll just walk for a little bit, get the heart rate going. From there, we'll go to more like a specific movement. So these are dynamic movements we're going to do to increase range of motion and throughout the entire body.
Getting in shape can be scary. So many questions, so many things to learn. But that's where we come in. The Fitness Fundamental Podcast. The only podcast here to take the fear out of fitness. With your host, Dom Jackson.
What's up, fitness freaks? This is Dom Jackson. You're tuning into the Fitness Fundamental Podcast. The only podcast here to take the fear out of fitness. Now I'm here with Saqib Fitness, the famous body by Saqib. How you feeling today, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. Now, Saqib and I, we go back to, we actually met in the past year over at the Field House.
Yes, sir. Good times. Good 8 weeks spent there.
Yeah. Now, what were we doing over there, Saqib?
I'm currently in PT school, working on getting my doctorate in physical therapy. And I was out there working with Dr. Dingle, Dr. Flyer, all those guys, just as a PT student, learning from them. And little did I know, next door we have a personal training studio, and that's where I came across Dom and those guys. So it was kind of cool to see both of my fields in one unit. As a personal trainer, I currently still am training. This is going on my ninth year, and it's been quite an experience to kind of combine both physical therapy and personal training in one world. And that's what my current pursuit is, to combine my knowledge of exercise and my knowledge of strength and conditioning with my newer knowledge of physical therapy in those realms. So that was a great facility to be at for 8 weeks to teach me those worlds and how to combine those worlds together. So I'm excited.
Now, what drove you to become a personal trainer or strength coach?
So personal training goes way back. I think back in 2007 is when I first started pursuing the career. I was an athlete for many years. I sustained a leg injury, and I got really, I'll put it in layman's terms, I got really fat. I got into this whole stage of depression. I couldn't play the sport I loved to play. It took me out for a year. My family just postponed surgery just because of the reasons we wanted to. And then it just came about where I just fell in love with exercise in terms of the weight room.
Nice.
Before then, soccer was my life. I was outside running every day, kicking the ball around every day. When my legs were no longer able to function because of a torn ACL, I turned right to the weight room and I fell in love with it. I was hooked on it. And since that day, I started pursuing exercise as much as I can. And every year more so, I just pursued, and I was like, this is great. I fell in love. And once you get addicted and you see the difference your body's putting through and the change you can make, is when I made me decide that, I want to help someone else get to that point. So in 2009, I got my first personal training certification.
Nice. And
since then, I'm currently still continuing education. Just got 2 more this past couple of months, so it's still a process.
Awesome. Now, what decided you to get into physical therapy?
Physical therapy came in realm of, first and foremost, I decided to make the change back in 2011, went out of pre-med into physical therapy. Because of the personal injuries. Yeah, so because of the personal injuries I've had, I was always around physical therapists. And more so, in the facility I used to work at, I started seeing more clients that were coming post-physical therapy, which was having some sort of injury. And for me, the biggest thing I wanted in my life was to help everyone that walked through my doors. So I had a client who sustained a really traumatic injury, and he lost one of his legs, so he was became amputee. And his biggest goal in life was to jump again. And every day I worked towards helping him jump. And I picked up another client who was born with just one arm, and one arm was half the length. So we were working with him. And those two individuals, every time I stepped onto the field with them, working with them in the weight room, I always find myself with obstacles of like, how can I make them better? And I always found that my biggest issue was not the knowledge of exercise, but just the knowledge of their body and how they're working. Seeing that, they're missing a limb, or they don't have the full functional limbs that we do. So it made me start to realize that I might just be missing those education aspects. So as I started to pursue those guys and learning more about corrective exercise, corrective movement, I found certifications to be very limiting, which led me to, I'm going to leave the career in general. And after I finished my session with those guys, 2 years later, I started to pursue physical therapy as a career, went back to school, took some classes over again, and then decided this is the route I want. And since that day, I think I made the best decision, because now it allows me to see everything, and it also allows me to see back in the future, these were my missing components. And it wasn't because I didn't know about exercise, it was because I didn't know how the body worked. And this is why it all comes back to that.
Nice. Now, Saqib, you have a very interesting approach to training. As far as, you tell me a ratio of like half workout, mobility, half food. Well, I'll let you explain it better.
Yeah. So basically, my workouts for myself as well as my clients are pretty much similar in approach. I spend the first 5-10 minutes of like a just generalized warm up. So we'll go, I'll hop on the bike, we'll hop on the treadmill, whatever, just walk for a little bit, get the heart rate going. From there, we'll go to more like a specific one. So these are dynamic movements we're going to do to increase range of motion and throughout the entire body. I always do a full body warm up because I feel like in every movement, whether you're isolating legs or upper body, you're still going to hit those body parts. Once we go through the actual general warm up, go through dynamic, we'll go to a specific warm up. So this is where we go into more like neural activation, working on movement and movement prep to activate certain joints that are going to be elicited more. After my warm up's complete, which will take about 15 to 20 minutes depending on the day, then we go to the actual workout. So it depends on the day what I want to target with myself. Lately, I've been doing a full body workout for the most part, like upper body push, lower body pull, vice versa, every time I've been training. It varies. I switch every 8 weeks with my program to keep the variation going. And then after my warm, I spend some time with cool down, stretching, foam rolling, the basic stuff that we all have to do no matter what. But that's typically how I run the workout for. So put a big emphasis on mobility and functional training. It wasn't like that a couple of years ago, where I thought, loading the weight was the best thing changing. And then you realize, it's not the best thing when your joints start aching. So.
It's definitely not, guys. Trust me on that. It definitely is. Now, for people that are trying to figure out the aspects of that, the second warm-up that you said, the more specific warm-up, how would they figure out what body parts to warm up for that movement or that push or pull day?
So you look at the movements that you decide. So I always recommend people write down the exercises you're going to do in the workout. Just like every personal training coach and strength coach does for their athletes and their clients, you as an individual, if you're not working with someone, do that. Write them down. And basically, let's go for an example, upper body push day. So your primary movers are going to be your chest. You're going to work with the shoulder speed. So you know that the shoulder joint's a big target. So you want to elicit properly warming up that shoulder as much as you can. Gain those stabilize to the fire. If you go down to the lower body, we have more joints to work on, right? We have the hips, we have the knees, we have the ankles. Ankles are the most neglected, so don't neglect them. Ankles have a lot of issues that can arise because they're small little muscles, so you want to make sure you hit mobility aspect of those. So typically, because I'm doing full body, I always start with hip dominant movements first. Then I'll go into specific shoulder dominant movements, and then I combine them with a drill that's together, whether it's like a bear crawl, whether it's like a greatest stretch, whatever I want to do. I try to keep it in a moving pattern so I elicit all those exercises. I look at it as that in our day-to-day life, we're using every joint in our body when we're walking, when we're working, to train yourself in those ways too. I think it's very important to realize that as well.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Making sure everything is as functional as possible. We all don't need to be bodybuilders over here, and most of you guys aren't going to be. So making sure every movement that you do is conducive to your actual lifestyle, except for people on Instagram. Well, that's us for good people to be like.
Exactly.
Now, as far as your PT journey, where are you at currently?
So I'm currently in my last year. I will be finishing in 8 months. Thank you, appreciate it. It's been a long process. 8 months, I'll be done, and hopefully taking the boards and passing the boards, and from there I'll be in the PT role. So we're headed down for our last clinical in a couple of weeks. I'll be down working with sports facility down in Florida. It'd be great to work with those guys too, just to learn a little bit more. And again, it's the same facility as Strive Wall. It's very combined with physical therapy as well as strength conditioning in one unit. So it'd be good to have that extra step to kind of see how we put two things together.
Nice, great. Yeah. Now, Saqib, as far as the big lifts, the compound movements, how would you warm up for something, say, a front squat?
Front squat, I do what's called a goblet squat with press. So basically, you're going to hold yourself with a kettlebell or a dumbbell in front of you, in front of your chest. You're going to squat down like a goblet squat, sit at the bottom, and punch straight out with your arms. What this movement does is you're sitting at the bottom as you have that weight in front of you. You're opening up those hips at the end range. You're conditioning the end range position. By adding the press, you're going to activate the core a little bit more. The press also activates a little bit of the anterior shoulder and gets those muscles firing. I like that drill a lot. It works total body as that front squat will be. It puts a huge emphasis at the bottom of the squat because you're focusing on holding at the end range. And that's where people tend to go wrong with the squat. They hold a little too high, they don't get enough. And also by increasing that range with that kettlebell, it makes a big difference for the activities.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So you hear that, guys? You should goblet squat press on for your front squats. Now, what about deadlift?
So deadlift's a very hip dominant movement. And one of the biggest things, the biggest mistakes people make is they don't activate their glutes and their lats enough before they activate. It's funny when you say lats, you don't think of deadlift working the lats up, but it is a big activator of that deadlift and holding that position. So my first drill to go to is getting those glutes to fire. You can start with lateral band walks as easy as you want with a hip bridge, just to get the glutes firing. You can do lateral walks, you can do band walks, whatever you want, but I like hip bridges a lot just because of the versatility of movement. I'll start bilaterally, so both legs first, then I'll go unilateral, so one leg at a time. And then from there, the last part I do that not many people will add, but I personally find to be huge and very beneficial, is I hold a single leg hip bridge. And from there, the leg that's completely perpendicular to the floor goes into rotation. So we're working on side to side with that leg. Really gonna open up that capsule a little bit more. But the entire time on the opposite side, you're engaging that glute and you're engaging those cores. And those are two big compounds that you wanna incorporate with your deadlifts.
Okay. Now, what about something like an overhead press? What do you do for that one?
So overhead press, fair warning for a lot of the athletes, you don't want to do a lot of overhead pressing, but when you do it, the biggest thing to work on is your serratus anterior. It's a very important muscle to engage and activate prior to going overhead. What happens is with serratus anterior, that scapula, it's controlling the upward and downward rotation of the scapula. If those aren't firing and you're going to overhead press, you're going to more likely increase impingement in the shoulder, but also you're going to try to go into like what we call rounded shoulder syndrome. You're going to put a lot of pressure on the anterior delt. Wall angels is my go-to exercise to start as a warm-up. What wall angels do is they teach me how to utilize proper serratus work. They work on proper scapular rotation, and the entire time when you're setting yourself up against the wall, you're pinning and you're retracting that scapula. And from there, you're basically moving through the range of motion, starting at like a field goal position up. And you repeat that over time, you'll see a huge difference on activation. You should start to feel the burn in between the scapula. That just gets those stabilizers to fire a lot better for me. I like it so much better. It's a very good exercise, not only for overhead press, but just for general posture. Everyone can always improve on posture.
Always. Now, would this same one work just as well as someone trying to practice for handstands?
Absolutely. So handstands, if you look at the motion that's occurring, right, when you're going on a headstand, your arms are fully extended, you're holding on. But the biggest thing with handstands, you're working on retraction of the scapula. If you're not fully engaging that scapula when you're holding a handstand, your shoulders are going to give out or you won't have as much support. With wall angels, the biggest thing is more like a proprioceptive response. You're teaching your scapula how to move properly throughout the entire range, and it's focusing step-by-step motion if you really think about the exercise. And also, the biggest mistake you'll see with wall angels, the tendency with a lot of individuals they make is that when they sit up against a wall, there's an arch in the lower back. It's a common mistake. Everyone makes it, but that's a mistake you want to avoid. That arch in the back means you're not engaging your core during your wall angel, and that all comes down to the center of gravity. Hold your core tight. So if you practice with the core tight and that wall angel, now you're going to transition to that handstand a lot better, because to keep your body upright in the handstand, your core has to really be engaged the entire time.
It does. Involving stabilizing your tip of the eye.
Absolutely. Learn a lot.
Now, what about a bench press? How'd you want for that?
So bench press, everyone does them. Everyone loves them.
Chest day, baby.
Chest day is Monday International, right?
You know it, bro.
Yep. So typically for that, you can go back to your wall angels, you can do that. You can even do your goblet squat toe press. I say do a push-up variation, or you do like on shoulder taps, whatever you want to do. Push-ups are a great intro to a bench press. It also tells you an idea if your client can't do a proper push-up, you really don't want to put a load on them until they learn how to do a push-up. So I like push-ups a lot. You go full range of motion with push-ups. You get the core firing, you get the shoulders firing, but also with the push-up, you get scapular retraction. So it all comes back to that scapula, right? With a bench press, if you're not retracting fully, you're going to impinge that shoulder joint, and you're going to put a lot of pressure on that pec minor. So I like push-ups for that reason, because it really focuses on the retraction aspect and really opening up the pecs a little bit more too.
Now, what about post-exercise, post-workout, for one of your big days? What should you do after?
So typically we'll go cool down walk or cool down run, whatever you want to do. I like a cool down walk. Sometimes depending on how intense my workout is, I might not jump right to a walk. I'll start like a light jog, cool down. And then I typically go into some static stretching. So stretching is going to work on continuing that flexibility aspect. I'll hold various stretches for about 30 to 60 seconds, depending on how I'm feeling, and also time crunch. Being in school, you don't always get the time to stretch, so we stretch throughout the day. But ideally, the stretch is recommended for 2 minutes, a minute minimum, and we just go from there. So for example, if we touch base with our front squat, I'll stretch out my hips, really put a focus on hips, really put a focus on quadriceps, even my hamstrings and glutes. So it depends on the muscle I target the most. I do emphasize stretching a lot after. Along with stretching, I also do some foam rolling. You can foam roll almost every joint. Everyone knows it's a good tool to have. Foam rolling does shown to increase the flexibility of sense long term, but also works on just getting that blood flow back in there and also just decreasing the tension you just put on yourself over time.
Now, with your busy schedule, being a student and training yourself, how do you schedule your time so that you have time to get the strength training in?
Just like with periodization, most trainers know what periodization is, right? You look at your schedule, you set up these times to make sure that
just in case someone didn't know what periodization is.
So periodization is pretty much a way personal trainers and strength coaches make programs in a microcycle, mesocycle, vice versa throughout. So we kind of plan these out on a day-to-day base, week-to-week base, month-to-month base, year-to-year base. And we look at what our individuals going to be doing. So I have those done for myself because I want my training to be more efficient. I'm accurate with what I do. So at that time, I do the same thing with my schedule. I look at what open blocks I have and I try to make time for it, because for me, exercise isn't necessarily only about looking good and feeling good. It's more about stress relief at the same time as a student. So I try to accommodate at least an hour of my time. And if it just means sacrificing some sleep a little bit, as long as I get my 7-8 hours in, I'll wake up a little early and get out of the way. Well, sometimes, I know last year, it was finals week, and I remember 3 days in a row, I did 3 workouts, 3 days, and it was 10 minutes at a time frame. So I went to the gym after every class with a 10-minute break, ran right down the campus, did my exercise, and went back. So I try to find a way. It might not be efficient sometimes because the 10-minute breaks here in between just hurt, but mentally, it was helping. So I think it just comes into making time for yourself. I have a lot of guys that I currently train now that work from 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. They want to spend time with their kids. So these guys are getting up at 3:30, 4:30. So I look at the individuals around me too. I look at if they can do it and find a way, I can find a way as well. So I think it's the biggest excuse we try to make is time is an excuse, but it really shouldn't be.
If you want to find if you want to make it a priority, guys, you will. So like as he said, you have to find a way to prioritize it. Even 10 minutes. 10 minutes of a consistent habit better than, I only got time for it. You got to come up with a plan. You got to understand what you're doing. And just like Mr. Saqib said, along with periodization, most people, you come into the gym and you're just working out. The difference between working out and training is that you have a plan and you know where the plan is taking you. So, definitely make sure that you have an idea of what you're going in for, whether you have a coach, research online, listening to this podcast, whatever it is that you need to help you figure out where to go. So you're not just working out just to get a sweat in, which is fine. But if you have a goal with this fitness thing, you need to have a plan with it.
Just to piggyback off of Dom, and the one thing we mentioned is that even 10 minutes are ideal, and that's where if you have a plan. So a lot of guys will come in, and I know I have clients in the past that have been late, and we've only had 30 minutes to get a workout in. That's when you look at what we would call high-intensity interval training, right? Everyone knows about it. You learn about it. Dom's the king of it. He does it all the time. But it's important to realize the benefits of that exercise, too. You might be looking at 8 to 12 minutes of a HIIT routine, but at the same time, per minute, you're burning 8 to 12 calories per minute. So a total of 30 minutes, you're between 260 to 370 calories that entire 30-minute span. Short amount of time to be very efficient. But in order to have that efficiency, you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, make that plan ahead of time. That's where it comes in. If we can plan our days, we can plan our meals, we can plan the time we're going to go out and party and stuff. You can plan 30 minutes of a day for your workout and make it efficient for yourself.
Damn right. Damn right, guys. Now, Saqib, people want to find more information about you or follow you on places. Where can they reach you?
So I have been running Instagram, as every personal training and performance coach has. So you can find me at Saqib Ali Fitness _fitness. You can go onto my website at SaqibAbi23@wix.com. Facebook, Coach Saqib Ali. And then my current hashtag that I'm running with all my athletes and stuff is #BodyBySaqib. So if you click that hashtag, you should be able to find me no matter what. I'm also on YouTube under Coach Body by Saqib as well with the YouTube series I run. I've been doing a lot of workouts on YouTube for short workouts for at home. I have nieces and nephews at times. I want to spend time with them, so I use them as workout video partners too. So definitely give it a shout out. I appreciate all the support for sure.
Oh, no problem. Definitely guys, check out Saqib. Now, Saqib, we have this thing called the question of the day. So you get to ask our listeners a question. Any question you want, anything that you think you want to know about from people listening. So whatever you want us to ask, it's up to you.
So that's a great question to ask. I mean, there's so many that comes in mind. And I remember as kids growing up, the one thing people always asked us was, what do you want to be when you grow up? What that leads to is the goal at the end of mind. So my question for your listeners, as well as all your followers, is that what is the biggest goal in your life that you have? And what's your obstacle that holds it back? And I don't want it to be a fitness goal. It can be a fitness goal, but I want it to be a life goal, whatever it is. Let us know. Tell us something that you are capable of wanting to do, but there's something that stands behind you or stands in front of you, and let us know how we can help you get to that goal.
Awesome. Well, Saqib, thank you so much for coming. Guys, make sure you check out him at all accounts. Thanks so much for listening. Once again, this is Dom Jack, the Fitness Fundamental Podcast, and take care. Done.
Okay, thank you, sir. That was fun, man.
That was beautiful.